she's coming from a different kind of mindset, and I'm like, okay, I hear you. So sometimes I'll go put away the ego that we were talking about earlier and be like,
it's been a long road. He's bitten off my head quite a few times. Or he's like, it is what it is. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I know, yeah.
And I think through my therapy, I've become more vulnerable. So if he says something, before I'd be like, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, no, you've hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Or how you've treated this person, how would you like it if I was treated that way?
Exactly.
And or he's seen like men not treat me well. And I'm like, but you can't say anything because you've also not held yourself accountable in certain things. So I think that like seeing each other's experiences has also helped us like grow.
And about accountability as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I hold my male friends very accountable because I'm like, you cannot be my friend and go out in the world and cause harm, because then what kind of person am I? Then I'm a bit like a pick-me. Yeah. I take it like, oh, as long as you're good to me, then, you know, screw everyone else. So I find it very important that my friends, my male friends, are always people that I can be like, okay, you could date my friend, or you could be someone I could recommend you to. Because if you can't, then what is the point? To me, anyway. Because him now, I would really recommend him to any of my friends. but him before, maybe not. It's been a journey. So it's not that I've given up on him, but I'm like, you need to be better. You need to be accountable. You need to be vulnerable. You need to be all of those things. And I think, you need to be vulnerable. Because, I mean, therapy taught me that in my vulnerability, I can see people for who they are, because it is actually a superpower. Because the more vulnerable I am, I can see how you react to my vulnerability, and then I can make decisions based on how you react to me. Because sometimes the more guarded you are, the harder it is. Because if you put up a wall, the thing about the wall is, you can't see out as well as people can't see in. But if you put down the wall, you can see out and people can see in. And in this life, unfortunately, the lessons that we have to learn, you will get hurt, but in every type of pain, there is a lesson that you need to learn. And if you don't learn that lesson, you know, life will keep
repeating itself till you learn.
And so, you know, for me, my lesson is the art of letting go. And it's like, until I really learn the art of letting people go when I need to, I'll keep having to come across things where I find it hard to let people go. So I think it's important, and I see him becoming like a better father with every, like the sacrifices that he's doing now and the things that he has moved to be able to accommodate on his second round of being a father is really like nice to see. So I do think it's the sacrifices you do, and even being a good father is how you treat the mother. A lot of men are like, oh, I'm there for my child, but you do not treat the mother well. You stress out the mom. And then what environment do you think, especially if she's the primary carer, is she going to be? So one of the things is, you may not have to be with the mum anymore, but do the things. Make her life easier, you know, be there for her so that she can also be a soft place for your child. Because if she has to do everything, she doesn't no longer have the capacity to be emotionally available for the child. And so I think being a good father is also understanding that you have a responsibility to the person you impregnated, and that responsibility is lifelong. It doesn't stop when a child reaches 18. And so I think the ego part of it needs to really die. And sometimes, you know, you may have hurt, like you may have caused harm, and she hasn't let that go. And you need to understand that sometimes, you know, the same way as when we're sorry, it's acts of service that we have to do to really prove that we're sorry. I just wish a lot more men understood that it's not just the sorry and then you move on, like get over it. It's an everyday, it's like, I don't know, there's a Yoruba saying, it's like fetch water. It's like your everyday, you know, the mundane things of the everyday is what you need to show up for, to really show that, do you know what, I've changed, and you are a place that you can trust me in this space, because you're co-parenting, so you still have a relationship, it's just different. So I think for a lot of men, they think they have to arrive before they start, but you can be in the journey because there's never an arrival. So just be in the journey and be like, this is what I can do. And as you can do more, you give more. But don't just be like, oh, I need to give this before I can even start. Because then what you do is you inadvertently, you give nothing.
Yeah.
And to give all you can where you can, I think is the best thing you can do. And I think that's one of the things that I do believe people lack imagination, because they only see arrival at one space. And I think it's a very capitalist way of thinking. Like, it's not community based. It's like, oh, I need to have these material gains. But it's like, if you don't have the material and maybe the woman has the material, where can you fill in the gaps? Do you know what I mean? You can fill in the gaps, but you have to die to your ego. Because if you think that, oh, being a provider only exists in one way, then you'll be always not wanting to like fill in those gaps. And I think being a provider is much more than material. It's much more than material.
Absolutely.
Like, fold the clothes. Do you know how much love it takes when you're folding clothes, washing dishes? Like, you're being of service to someone. And I think if you die from your ego, being of service to someone, it doesn't mean, it's not demeaning. It's one of the most powerful acts of love.
It's actually
that you can give
enriching
someone.
to self as well.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think if men redefine what their masculinity looks like, what it is to be a man, and you define it for yourself, I think you'll have a lot of freedom in that. Instead of thinking that, oh, masculinity is dominance, it's stoicism, it's, oh, I've got all of these things in place. No. Be flexible with your masculinity. Who are you before someone told you who you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preach.
That's what I think.
Preach.
Okay, let me
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I've got him there. What is it?
What are you currently working on to heal yourself?
Jesus. That's not light. You go first.
I love the African map on the top, by the way.
Are you going to answer the question?
Yeah, I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
So currently what I'm doing to heal myself is I'm continuously trying to be introspective in how I relate to people on the everyday, being out and about in a supermarket, how I communicate with people, all those things, because I think from what I've learned for self in the last year or so, it's trying to lead with love and in love. So it's the whole idea about how you want to be treated, right? And I want to be treated with respect, compassion, love, tolerance, but what sits above all of that is love. So therefore, how I deal with people, it needs to come from a place of love. So I lead whatever I do in love. Therefore, I know what I put out there in the universe, it will come back to me, like, regardless. And it doesn't have to come back to me straight away. It doesn't have to be next week. But I know, because I'm certain, because I'm assured in the universal kind of happenings and shapings, that it will come back to me. So it's become part, of my existence, whereby I try to smile more in dealing with people. I communicate in a place where, in terms of tone, how I use my tone and the cadence of how I speak to people, all of these things has to be centered and around love. So for me, going back to the question again, what am I currently working on to heal myself? It's about understanding what loving self is and how I see myself through a lens of loving myself, how I project that love onto others, irrespective of who they are, what they are, where they are, and also loving in terms of the universe. I think for me personally, that is so important. I love in terms of the sun being out. I love it when it's raining. I love when it's stormy and cold. I love all of that because that is part and parcel of who we are in our existence. So for me, what I'm working on is love, unconditional love for self, for others, universe, and yeah, man, so love. That's what I say. And I've got to say, and I've been saying that, and I need to put it on a t-shirt. And a friend of mine was like, that's so corny. Peace, love, and sunflowers. That's my thing. Peace, love, and sun. Yo, like, ask her every time I text people at the end of it, peace, love, and sunflowers. I just put it out there all day. That's me. That's who I am. So, you know, it's well, thank you. It's beautiful. This is a very powerful question.
Yeah, I think mine's pretty easy. It's just learning to forgive myself and go easy on myself, because I'm quite critical of myself. So it's just being easy, like really being easy on myself and realizing, because I remember there was this actor who said that some of the things he says to himself, he would never say that to his friends. So why does he speak to himself in that manner? So it's really learning that, you know, what mistakes happen, and irrespective of the mistakes, it's just learning to even love yourself through the not so great parts of you. So that's what I'm learning, to be a lot more easier on myself, a lot more forgiving of myself, and giving myself a lot more grace.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll take this one. What can we learn from the past of our people?
Woo! Deep!
What can we learn from the past of our people? It depends. Are you talking about ancestral people, the people that we used to be friends with, that we're no longer? It's a... Okay.
It's ancestry more like.
So I guess if it's the people that I admire, like the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Sankaras, the Lumumbas, what I would learn from them is that as revolutionary as they were, there is something that we have to say about communal. And I think one of the things we have to understand is, as great as our ideas are, we cannot dominate. We have to have a communal aspect. We cannot say this is the only way we can be. And so learning all about them is allowing space for difference of opinion. It's allowing, I think, like the community in Cameroon have a very matriarchal way of doing things, and the matriarch is to respect everything and nothing is above anything. And I think that's what I would learn, that because back in the day I could be very much like, it's my opinion, this is how I want to do things, whereas now I'm like learning to be like, this is where I sit, how do you sit, and where do we meet in the middle? So that's what I'm learning, that it's not one way to do things, and it's allowing other voices to have space in that. So that's what I've learned. What I've learned from my ancestors in particular is that some of them are a bit rash. Like they're not,
and we need to talk about that too, because it's so important.
Some of them are not all holy. Not all your ancestors are the best people in the world.
Real, and we need to talk about it.
I think there is. We like to kind of amplify and be like, they were all peace and love and light and, you know, higher thinking. No, some of them weren't, and I think there is beauty in what isn't. There's beauty in the shadow as well as in the light, and I think both things need to be considered. I don't think there is anything that is of that, and also to love the shadows of yourself, because they make you who you are. So it's not just, oh, I'm kind, I'm compassionate. Maybe I am ego driven, maybe I am impatient, but even those parts I need to love, because they do make me who I am. So that is what I've learned from ancestors.
It's about duality, isn't it?
Yeah, to be okay in the grey, because I was never okay in the grey. So yeah, so that's what I've learned, to be okay in the grey, and to be okay with the parts that may not be what society deems is best, but they're still part of me. So that's what I've learned.
That's yeah. I'll go with the quick, because I can't, you know. Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
What are the main principles you will teach your children? The main principles I'll teach my children. Wow, that is a loaded question, I may add. That's loaded. I was talking earlier on about love, right? And and love, it's so broad. But I think for me, in terms of like principles to give or to leave for my children, is first and foremost love for self. Love for self. What does that mean? Love for self, and it's interesting because you talk about the, dualities of self, and because no person, individual, is one thing. We're a lot of things, and that's what makes us who we truly are. So if we can be authentic to ourselves and, have a better understanding of, okay, I may love greenery, but at the same time, I'll go and chop some, flowers somewhere to build a house. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person, I'm going against climate change or whatever, and that's just who I am. But having that understanding that who you truly love in terms of self will always precede in terms of negatives around that. So for me, I tell her I love it all the time. I always tell my children, I love them. I don't have to have a moment and time. Oh, it's bedtime, I'm putting you to bed. I love you, Baba. No, I could be on the street and we're walking, and I just turn around, I love you. Yeah, I love you. Right? But I don't expect them to say to me, I love you back, because in the moment, because I'm being present. So that feeling I have in that moment, I can't keep it. I don't need to keep it to self, because I need to express it. So whoever I'm expressing that to, i.e., in terms of my child, whatever they do with that information I've just shared with them, that's on them. I know I've done my bit to express something that I deeply feel. So I think, and then in terms of how I treat people, but first and foremost, I always come to self, because if you can treat yourself with love, respect, grace and tolerance, that is how you will treat other people, and people are going to treat you. So for me, them seeing me treat myself with love, I'm being kind to myself, I'm being gracious to self, it says a lot. And they can go out there in the world, be in the school, among their friendship groups, and be like, you know what, I love myself. And people are like, why do you love yourself? Because I say this all the time, I am God. And people are, and I am God. I'm creating me. I'm creating my existence. I'm creating my reality, because I love myself. And then in that love, there might be some things that haven't sat well with me before, but I'm now in a place whereby I'm able to acknowledge that fully, and the love just, the sun, it's radiating. That love is just like, it's luminous, so that's the principle I try to instill in my children all the time. Love for self, then it works its way, and then just, it proceeds to everything else. That's me, really.
I think I go back to the saying, who were you before they told you who you were? Mm-hmm. So my thing that I'll teach my child is to always be rooted in who they were, and don't let other people tell you who you are. Because once you know who you are, you know your purpose, you know how to walk through the world, you're not moved by other people's influences. So it's always to give space for him to understand who he was before we told him who he was, to really tap into what the essence of who he is. And I know that everything else will fall into place. So that's basically it.
100.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Last one.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yes.
Okay. What lessons did your parents teach you that you now know is wrong? #unlearn.
I love that word, unlearn. Don't we talk about that all the time? Sorry. I talk about unlearning all the time. All the time. Oh my gosh. What lesson did your parents teach you that you know is wrong? Wow. That in itself, we could take days on this. But you want to go first?
I think mine's pretty simple. I think it's the cautiousness. like to be safe, to pick decisions that are, or pick things that are safe, that you have like, you know, just to be very cautious. So you're almost scared of living. And that's what I've had to, and I'm still unlearning that, you know what, happiness doesn't always sit in safe. And so I need to be able to go out and explore and be okay that I may fail. So there are plenty, but that's the main thing that I'm doing right now, and I find extremely challenging. Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, to piggyback on what you've just said, is taking risks. You know, taking risks, because I sometimes, like, I was always that child. I was challenging things. If I didn't understand it, I would challenge it. Maybe I didn't challenge it in a way that was deemed acceptable, especially in school. But risk taking is something that I instill in my children a lot now, because I'm still taking risk and I'm unlearning some of the things that my parents were like, you know, so averse to, oh, don't jump that gutter, because when you fall, you're gonna hurt yourself. Let me just fall in and see what happens. Because maybe through that falling down, that is where I'm gonna find where my true purpose lies. But because I haven't gone into that, you know, hole or dip or whatever, I don't know where that, you know, excellence of self or essence of self is gonna come. So I think it's about taking risks, right? And I think being West African as well, that is something that our parents were very much like, don't do this because, and there was always painting all the negatives around risk taking. So it became a thing whereby I see a lot of my friends now and I'm like, you could have been so great to something, but because of the parents kind of averse to risk taking, it's kind of stifled your growth. And that is spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that. So for me, it's about unlearning in terms of not being able to take risks. And now I'm in a place where I take risks. You know, I might fail, but hey, because I say in life, it's two things. You either win or you learn. And don't lose. I never lose. So it's just to unlearn these things that's been instilled in us, saying, you know what, I'm gonna win if I take a particular risk and it doesn't go the way I was expecting or for the outcome I wanted. It's not a loss. It's a learning opportunity. And the more you're able to kind of unlearn these kind of aversion to taking risks, you realize there's so much abundance in the world that we could live with. So yeah, you know, unlearning is I love unlearning, man. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And I like how you hashtag that as well. I see you. That's dope.
I think as a community, we need to really tap back into pre-colonial times of how did we look at each other? How did we look at children? How did we come together? You know, so I think it's so important that we have these types of conversations where we can say, I see you, and we can have places where men can go when they have children and you can be held accountable, be like, that ain't cool, you can't say that, but we're here for you. Because sometimes you need a place to say the stuff that is nasty, that is not so great, but you can't say it to the person that you're with because that's not the place where you need to say it. But you need a place to voice your opinions so that someone can be like, I've felt like that, and affirm that, but also say, this is how you get out of it. So I think that's my. And
I think it's so, 100%. And then, you know, it's so important because I think I used to have lots of friends. I used to be that person. Lots of friends. But it came to a point whereby when I started being intentional about finding my true and living my authentic self, I realized I was just, and it wasn't me just cutting people off. Like, some people will just drop off the tree and they say a dry fruit, dry leaf, it will drop by itself. So it wasn't me. So I think on a spiritual kind of place, it was the thing whereby because I was doing a particular work, you know, intuitively, certain people in my life were kind of fading away.
Is your vibe bringing that
And I was able to allow that. And you spoke about having to let go. So there's some people that were like going out of my life. I wasn't chasing after them anymore. Like, that's a choice. And I think it's good to offer people that choice to be who they want to be in your life. And since I started letting go, I was able to, so a lot of my friends now, I can sometimes phone people like, yo bro, I love you, man. Yo, what's wrong with you? Bro, I love you, bye. And now later on, maybe even a month, I was like, bro, I was just in the space and you've been an amazing friend to me and I just had to express that to you. So, so I think it's, and you said, so it's about being able to be in a community, being able to be around people that not only affirm you, but can challenge you to be able so that you're making the right choices because they're holding you accountable and vice versa. Because I think it's really important because that is where growth happens because it's about, it's a journey. For me, everything is a journey and it's not really about the outcome because I see we can sit down and paint an outcome, but the true kind of change or I'll say the essence of change and it happens through the journey. It doesn't happen on the outcome because some people can skip and get to the outcome, which is you live in a false life. But to be in your authentic self, you need to go through that journey. And going through that journey is that magic happens in that journey. That going through that's where the magic happens. So when you get to the outcome is just a thing because you've been in the present continuously through that journey. So the outcome is like, it's a bonus. It's not really something that I was looking up to. If it gets there, great. But the journey is where the magic happens, that change, evolution. It's beautiful. And, there's one person that she always hosts me to her couch and I'm not thinking like, sometimes I'm like, I need to get off the phone. Do you know what I mean?
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and you know this anyway. You know this anyway.
So I'm very, very, very honest with you.
So it's she's someone I really cherish and I really hold dear, and I'm just happy for her. I'm just happy for where she is at the moment because as a mother, I always knew it. I always knew she would be a fantastic mother, and like I'm just happy. I love her, man.